Contentious moments on Capitol Hill today as Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth faced questions about the Marines deployed to Los Angeles over immigration protests.
Are the Marines in Los Angeles ordered to protect property by any means necessary?
Sir, I would say the ICE officers and police officers being attacked is not political theater. The National Guard and Marines,
just yes or no. Just yes or no.
The National Guard and Marines have the full authority to protect federal ICE agents.
Yes or no.
Buildings.
Can you just say yes or no? This isn't Fox anymore. Just yes or no.
They're there to protect federal agents and federal.
Another BS answer.
Salud Carbajal there, a Marine veteran, by the way. NBC's Melanie Zanona is tracking this hearing for us from Capitol Hill. And here in the studio, U.S. Army and Iraq War veteran Allison Jaslow. Allison, to you first, your reaction to the Secretary's testimony today. We've seen him now on the Hill for a few days.
You know, I was mentioning this to you before, but I wish there were more questions about the downstream impacts of what's playing out right now.
Yeah.
You know, the time that Marines are on the streets of L.A. is time that they're not spending training. And I also have friends who are serving right now who are kind of over all the politics that are happening as it relates to the military. They're thinking about cutting their careers short. And you're going to lose some of the best leaders in the military in times like this, not the people who otherwise will just go along to get along in the military. And that's bad for our troops, especially the rank and file, who need strong leaders.
Yeah, and I think there's also the fact that this is coming against the backdrop of a military parade this weekend. It's the 250th anniversary of the Army, but then, of course, also President Trump's birthday. So that's getting headlines. But there are current and former Army officials who spoke to the New York Times who raised concerns that this could create a split-screen moment where it almost looks like they're celebrating the crackdown in L.A. on American citizens. So do you agree with that, or with other veterans that I've spoken to who say we should be celebrating those who serve our country in uniform? It feels like a careful balancing act here.
Well, as a proud Army veteran myself, I'm happy that the Army is celebrating the 250th anniversary this weekend. But I think, you know, the military also has pageantry,
yes,
whether it's over at Arlington National Cemetery, on bases across the country. We commonly do ceremonies for changes of command, for example. But you have to temper that. And we should also be wise about how many or what resources we're squandering for ceremonial activities, because those are resources that could otherwise be dedicated to actual war fighting, which is something that the administration talks a big game about, but doesn't necessarily follow through on. And then, you know, I think the other point that I like to make around the parade specifically is you have generations of veterans who still haven't gotten their coming home parade. And it would be nice if the Commander-in-Chief would prioritize the coming home parades of veterans who never got their ticker tape parade like the World War II generation got, over a parade like the one that we're going to see this weekend.
Yeah, and of course, then there are concerns about cost that Republican senators are also airing. Couldn't this money be better funneled to supporting veterans in a variety of different ways? So, Mel, as we see Hegseth back on the Hill, he's never one to shy away from the fiery moments, and there have been several. What else stood out to you from today's hearing?
Well, Ali, you know what's interesting is that this is his third day of hearings, and yet we are still seeing lawmakers really digging into new topics. And I think that really speaks to how much ground there is to cover with the secretary, not just because of everything that's in the news right now related to the military, related to the Pentagon, but also because of how many controversies have happened underneath the secretary's watch. Chief among them being Signalgate, that infamous episode where he shared Yemen attack plans in this group chat on Signal. He had not really been grilled about that episode until today, when Seth Moulton, a Democratic congressman who's also a former Marine, really tried to drill down into whether that information was classified at the time it was shared. If it wasn't, who unclassified it and when, and also asking whether the secretary himself would take any responsibility for his role in that entire episode. Let's take a listen to that exchange.
I didn't confirm any classification or
okay, so if it is
what
confirmed,
I know is that
will you take
everything
accountability?
I share, everything I talk about,
Mr. Secretary, does accountability apply to you or not?
Is classified whether I talk or not.
Does it apply to you or not?
Does what apply to me?
Accountability. You said accountability is back at the secretary.
And you know what? The Houthis were held accountable for shooting at our.
I'm just asking.
So that was one of just several heated moments that we've seen today from the secretary as he's been on Capitol Hill for these trio of high-stakes hearings. Ali.
Allison, what do you make of the way that he replied to that question? Accountability is back seemingly for everyone, but does it apply to him?
Well, I mean, that is an utter lack of leadership. And I would say that an overwhelming number of veterans who I know, myself included, know that we would have gotten our tails handed to us had we have even compromised intelligence that wasn't even that high of a level, like I wasn't even touching intelligence that was of that high of a level, and if I had slipped something that was just secret and not even top secret, I would have been punished for it. And everybody in the military knows right now that that was not okay. And it would be nice, people also understand that accidents happen. Just own up to them. So it's unfortunate that our men and women in uniform have to report to a Secretary of Defense that can't own up to something that is so straightforward and clear cut.